I got super busy and got distracted for a while, and now my eyesight either A, stopped improving or started getting worse again. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jake Steiner. I used to have -5 diopter high myopia. I now have 20/20 eyesight. I improved all of my eyesight without LASIK surgery, without magical eye exercises, without eye vitamins. To learn more about that, click the links below. But this video really isn't for beginners. This is meant for you if you are already improving your eyesight and you have been for a while. This is kind of a pro topic, and we're focusing on some of the challenges that people tend to run into when you're living a modern lifestyle that involves a lot of screen time, but you're also improving your eyesight. In this video specifically, we're going to talk about what happens when people say, I got super busy and got distracted for a while, and now my eyesight either A, stopped improving or started getting worse again. And troubleshooting these things for a lot of people works out without needing my help with these videos. But sometimes you're not realizing what you're doing that causes your vision to either not improve or actually get worse because of things that you're doing unconsciously. And I'll demonstrate what is going on very commonly in these situations where you might be saying, I got super busy with work and I stopped paying attention, and why did my eyesight stop improving? Let me show you. All right. So here we have an example of a desk setup. It's the only example I have. But basically what happens is what you should be doing, oh, I can't move this back far enough. What you should be doing is be at a distance where you're getting a blur horizon at your normal ergonomically comfortable distance, right? And this is probably where you're starting out. Like, you are looking at your screen, and this certainly is not an ergonomical setup. It's just the desk chair in this hotel room. But generally, right, like, you have a setup that's ergonomically accurate, where you're sitting comfortably, that you've worked out, where your differential glasses are the right ones, and then you have your screen here and you're working as normal on your screen. Now, what tends to happen, especially if you're not working just with text, but you're either doing design stuff or any kind of thing where you're having to focus particularly on detail. What tends to happen is, as you're working, right, you're starting out whatever the ergonomical comfortable distance is, and then you start doing this, right? Like, you start like this, and you end up at a distance where you get more clarity more quickly without having to use some amount of active focus, right? Like, because at this normal distance that you set yourself up, basically is like, if you're reading email or if you're working on regular stuff, like, it's fine. And if you take just a second to refocus yourself when there's a bit of blur, you're fine. You can work at this distance perfectly okay. But then when, like, if you're an architect and you're working on some drawing thing, or you're a programmer even, and you're like digging through code pretty quickly, you end up doing this, right? Like, as you stop thinking about the ergonomical comfortable position and the distance, because you're just trying to focus on your work and you want as much clarity as possible, and you don't really want to take the time to refocus and to active focus and to be present for that part of the experience. Now, the only way that I know to fix this is to take a moment. It's like, for example, a great example is if you meditate. I was never a big fan of meditation. I eventually got into it, and now it's a thing that I really like to do generally in the morning, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, right? It's just letting your mind go blank, creating that space where you're not like this in your head, right? And then when you start working, you're like, okay, I'm taking, it's an extra 3 seconds to go, okay, sit back, focus on the thing, resume working, right? When people say, I got too busy, it's not about the totality of the busyness over the last 3 months or 6 months. The issue is when you lose track of that 2 and 3 seconds of, okay, let me sit back and refocus. Like, let me just, I'm too close to the screen, right? And if you do that in the beginning, like as you're getting busy, it becomes part of your schedule. It becomes part of your, like busy, when you get busy, you don't stop breathing, right? Like you don't stop sitting down, you don't stop checking your messages, you don't stop doing other things that you either have to do to survive or that are part of your habits. And creating that part of your habits to go, whoop, am I sitting back? Am I practicing active focus here? I know of a million things going on. It's just 2 or 3 seconds. If you do that for the first day, 2 day, 3 day, week, 2 week, 3 weeks, it becomes part of your habits. So despite the fact that you're busy, you're not controlled by your workload or your effort to that extent, right? Like you're pushing back enough to where you're saying, okay, for me to accomplish this task or this series of tasks or this part of my life effectively, I need X amount of space to create an environment that is healthy for me and that is productive for me and that will continually work, right? So if you find yourself in that space, it's really difficult to reset when you're in that mode, right? You basically will either need a vacation or start working at a different physical spot to remove yourself from the space, or otherwise get a break big enough to where all these habits that are working together that keep you locked in to be more easily replaced by something else. It tends to not be that easy to do, but it's something, at least if you're aware, right? First of all, you're aware that you're getting closer to your screen, and then second of all, you're aware that the excuse of I was too busy or the explanation I was too busy isn't really the cause of your eyesight no longer improving. It's you didn't build the space for that habit, that 1, 2, 3 seconds of just checking yourself, checking your distance, going, okay, I can code from this distance. I don't need to be here, right? And once you get yourself used to that, instead of moving closer subconsciously, you blink and you refocus almost subconsciously, right? If you do it for months and months, like you get to the point where the posture becomes your default and the blinking and refocus becomes your default. It's only in the beginning, before you build a productive habit, that there's space for the bad habit to creep in, right? If you don't build the productive habit of staying back, which takes more effort initially, staying back and refocusing, then the habit just becomes by default moving closer. And that moving closer, ciliary spasm, you're not getting the benefit of while you're sitting up close, of pushing a little bit of focus, right? You really do need to or want to enforce the positive habit, so otherwise default negative habits don't start creeping in. And once you figure all this out, once you realize this and maybe this is new to you, and if it's new to you and you're in this situation, you watch this video, when you get back to work, take a moment to evaluate whether this is what's going on. And if this is what's going on, that's perfectly fine. Now you know what's going on. Then you gotta take a step back and say, okay, how much of this do I need to change for me to be able to affect the default habit? Because if moving closer is your default habit, that is hard to fix if you're not changing anything else, right? Because all our habits are like interlocked. So you're used to the background sound, you're used to the desk and the chair, especially the desk and the chair, because you're used to this movement of moving closer. You have to interrupt all that on a larger level, and that's not really my subject of like how to build habits and how to change habits, but you have to disrupt enough of the other things for the chain of habits to be broken so you can build a new habit where initially you're spending a fair bit of time checking yourself, going, I move closer again. You don't beat yourself up over it, perfectly fine. It's just a matter of recognizing it. Yep, this is what I did. I'm gonna replace that. I'm gonna sit back again. I'm gonna look at my screen. I'm gonna blink. I'm gonna get my active focus back. Oh, there we go. The screen's cleared up. Now I'm resuming work. It's worth it. It's worth to invest the time up front, because over the long run, getting busy doesn't have to equal your vision either stopping to improve, or less ideal scenario, even getting worse again in the direction where you started out. Busyness doesn't equate that having to happen. It's just a matter of recognizing that it's happening and recognizing that you're not creating good habits and default bad habits are creeping in instead. Hopefully this is helpful. A lot of this kind of topic stuff I have a giant list of that is based on feedback I get, because there is so many thousands of people doing this and participating in this. I get so much email. I start seeing trends, right? Like I can't respond to every single email I get, but when I get 10, 20, 50, 100, that say, hey, oh, well, I lost track because I got so busy, then I can start formulating, okay, this is a piece that is missing in general that you need. So I appreciate the emails, even if I don't necessarily am able to answer all of them. I appreciate the comments in the videos. I scroll through it here and there a little bit. Facebook group I follow, our forum, of course, I'm in. So when I see trends of what's going on, I really try to throw these things in that are hopefully helpful. If you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.